Hello, fellow sim pilots. We're here today to talk about the A-18's Auxiliary Power Unit, better known as the APU. Before we can get this amazing jet up in the air, we need to get it started. I know we can use Control-E or other shortcuts. But if you are like me, a do-it-yourself type of girl or guy, you want to know everything about this beauty. And for that, we'll go here. The Nat Ops Flight Manual for the Hornet. I know Maverick doesn't like this mammoth of a manual. But let's face it, you and I are not Maverick. Not yet anyway. We'll start inside the cockpit of the Super Hornet. First, we turn on the battery and wait for an indication of power. Now that the battery is on, we'll go to the APU on the left side. We turn it on and wait for it to be ready.
Wait for it.
Once we have an indication that is ready, we continue with the startup procedures. So, what exactly is an APU? What does it do? And how does it do it? We'll explore those topics in the next few minutes. The APU is basically a small jet engine located inside the fuselage between the two main engines. Let me briefly explain how a jet engine works. There are 6 main parts. We'll start with the fan. Air is sucked in by the fan and directed to the compressor. The compressor, as the name implies, compresses the air to a high pressure. Then this high-pressure air is channeled to the combustor, where it is mixed with fuel, and you guessed it, an explosion takes place, similar to what happens in your car engine. This high-energy airflow originated by the ignition of the fuel in the combustor goes into the turbine. The turbine rotates, now turning the intake fan and the compressor. Remember, initially the intake fan was turned by the APU. Now finally at the back of the engine, the high energy gets to the nozzle, from where it exits the engine, creating thrust. This is similar to putting your finger at the front of a water hose to create a smaller exiting orifice, from where the water exits at a higher velocity. We explained how the jet engine works, because as we said before, the APU at its heart is a jet engine. But there are 2 significant differences. 1. The APU is smaller than the main engines. 2. It does not create thrust. What it does create is bleed air. This is the exhaust air from the ignition of the fuel in the combustor. This bleed air turns the engine when we crank the engine. Let's briefly recap what happens when we turn on the APU. The APU gets outside air and fuel from one of the fuel tanks. The initial turn of its fan blades is provided by the hydraulic motor that is turned by the APU accumulator. If you think about it, the relationship between the APU and the hydraulic motor is the same relationship that takes place between the APU and the main jet engines. The hydraulic motor provides the initial turn of the APU's fan blades. And once the APU is online, then it provides the initial turn of the jet engine's fan blade when we crank the engine. If you like what we did here, please subscribe. We'll leave you with a little trivia question. Which modern jet did not have an APU? If you know, comment below. Again, thanks for watching. And support us by subscribing.